get started, first off, I'm real excited to be here and to have this opportunity to be involved, to come on campus and to be involved in the Entrepreneur in Residence. To start off, what I have is, my name is John Richards, and so I know there's another John Richards running around, so I want to start with a John Richards story. Okay, some years ago, I was president of a company in Salt Lake, which I'll talk about, and I had a guy from the financial services industry who contacted me, and we'd been talking on the phone. And it came to a point he wanted to give me a presentation. And I said, great, let's do it. Give me that presentation. He said, well, I'll send it out to you first, then I'll follow up. And he said, is there anything about your name I should know? And I said, yeah, my name's John Richards. It's spelled, my name's John Richards, J-O-N Richards. And so sure enough, a couple days later, I got the presentation, and on it was John, J-O-N, Richards, just like this. So hopefully when you're talking to somebody, now you know that I'm John J. Owen Richards. And it's so funny to think that both of us hung up the phone thinking that we'd really communicated too. You know, he's like, hey, yeah, it's John J. Owen. Thanks for asking. And he's at the other end writing down John J. Owen Richards. So very funny. So with that, we'll start at the top, because this is an opportunity for me to introduce myself, and that's why I had Justin give sort of a short intro, because that's what I'll talk about today, and hopefully we'll give you some fun things to think about, some instructive things, but I'm going to start here. This is my family that I'm most proud of, starting with my wife, Stephanie, who's here with me. Hi, Stephanie. And then the rest of the crew. Stephen is in the middle. He's a student at BYU. He got married a month ago. And that's his cute little wife, Chelsea, who's joined the family. Next, we have Spencer, who is a student here at UVU. And Spencer's claim to fame is that last year, he and some buddies went down and were on The Price is Right, and he won the showcase. So I'm driving the car down here that he won on the showcase last year. So it's awesome. I mean, I got the call, hey, guess what? I just won the showcase. I was like, come on, Spence. But he really did win it. So that's a fun thing about Spencer. Jessica is our next one. She's over here. She is at BYU, her first year there. And again, it's a proud parent. She's an incredible pianist, and she was Miss Utah last year. So outstanding teen, thanks. But anyway, she's a lot of fun to have. Then I have two good soccer players, Rachel and Ryan. So that's our family. Now I want to take you through my career in the last 20 years, and we'll do it in just a few minutes. When I got out of Utah State, I went with a company called Deloitte Touche, and was in the audit side of the business, and had a terrific experience there for a number of years. We met a lot of good people, and the cool thing about that, it provided two things that were real valuable. First was access. Because I was 20-something years old, and I could go into companies and ask for virtually any record that they had and see what was going on, whether it was payroll, sales, the cost of manufacturing, how they handled their logistics, or really any questions. So that was really a super advantage, to have that name behind us and also the ability to have that access. Next is there was a network that was created. In Salt Lake at the time with Deloitte, there were 100 professionals. And we audited many of the large corporations that were in Utah. And with that, we built a network, or that was the start of building a network, with peers and other people in the industry that we still have. In fact, I have partners in business today that were from Deloitte back in that day. We left Deloitte. The only thing bad about being an auditor was the work. And we left there and went with a company called Associated Food Stores. Now, for those of you who don't know about Associated Food Stores, because they keep it somewhat, they're not on the forefront, because they are a wholesaler. And they do about $1.6 billion in sales. They provide groceries and other goods to about 520 different stores. So you know many of them now. They bought Fresh Market, Macy's, Dan's, Reams would all be their stores. So I went there as controller, and then later as treasurer. But the coolest thing that I did there was I had the opportunity, at the time I was redesign and engineering, they call it the red team. So I was pulled out of my job for 6 months and was able to go through each process in the company and to get a deep understanding of how the company worked, and then make recommendations for change. So it was really fun because there's 1,200 people there, and it was fun to have that impact. And again, high quality people and a great place to work. So I left Associated Food Stores, and I'll talk about it real quick. The reason I left was Associated Food Stores had independent grocers, and they had this really cool location in North Ogden, Utah, which happened to be 2 blocks from where I grew up. And they said, we haven't got a retailer who wants to take this site. And I said, well, I'll take the site. And so I took the site, and we built a 50,000 square foot grocery store on it, along with all the about 13,000 square feet of inline retail. And we started a store in North Ogden, Utah. And it's about the same size as a Smith's or a Dan's store that you've been in. And it was called Acres Market. And that was one of our fun entrepreneurial experiences, right? So I was with Associated Food Stores for a number of years, but I left in conjunction with starting that store. And then I went as CFO of a company called Industrial Supply, which is in Salt Lake City. It's a privately held company. It's been around for a long time. They sell construction supplies and tools to a few different industries: aerospace, manufacturing, government, and construction. So I went there as CFO, and a year later was made president. So I was president for until last year, until 2012. And again, talking about lessons that I learned there, that was a terrific opportunity to, again, influence a company. Because with 160 employees, that's enough, but still small enough that you can really make an impact in driving business. And that's what we were all about, was driving growth. And what I had a fun time there with, again, was access. This is some of our clients that we had. Most of the large companies in Utah that are in those industries I was just talking about do business with Industrial Supply. And so it was really fun for me as president to have that access and to get in and meet with these large corporations that were represented here. It also gave me an opportunity, because most of the stuff we sold was commodity items. In fact, when I'd hire somebody, I'd say, how many places can you buy the things that we sell? And they'd number, hundreds, whether it's Home Depot, Lowe's, or all sorts of locations. And so what we try and do is differentiate ourselves, and to differentiate a commodity is super tough. And here, let me ask, how many of you, how many business majors? Everybody? Okay. And what are you majoring in business? Accounting? Okay. Entrepreneurship? What else we got? Business management? Okay, what are some other ones? Finance. Okay, finance. Great. Okay, that's really good to know. So, again, it was cool to have the access again to these customers and to have that opportunity. The second thing I learned at Industrial Supply, and I've probably known this earlier, but it really came to light, was the sales side. As president, I was all about selling. I mean, you need revenue growth. You need it to be moving in the right direction. So I was all about getting out and trying to sell stuff. Because you can talk about all day, making things nice inside your place, but it's all about the revenue growth. So during that time, this was some of the time that we were there. And this is during a decade that was really a difficult decade. If you recall, from 2000 to 2011 was pretty slow growth. But we were able to drive some good growth through a company that had been around for a long time. And again, it's all about sales. I mean, no matter what your major is, what you're thinking you're going to do, whether it's in finance or other areas, it's really about selling. And I had it to the point my salespeople would just come in and say that we're all about sell, sell, sell would be our mantra. So relationship selling especially, because that's repeatable and sustainable. So this was a sales chart. This was a shareholder equity chart during that time as well. Because again, those sales would translate to increase in the shareholder equity. During that time, here are just a few things about people that we won't spend too much time on, because I have a couple other things I'd like to get to. How late do we go? Okay. Was the people. Again, we were selling commodity items, so we needed to make a difference with the people. And Warren Buffett talks about this a lot, that he doesn't invest in companies, he invests in people. And so I'll tell you one of the stories from this, the light up a room story. I was interviewing for a sales position, and it was a significant position. They were going to cover Utah County. And I had one of the guys that came in, and I said, what do you think your best trade is? And he was a younger guy, but he'd been out working some. And he looked at me and he says, well, my mom says, which is always a concern when you start with my mom says I light up a room. And the other guy that was interviewing with me, we started to laugh. I mean, that was a funny comment to hear that you light up a room. But Damon lights a room up. And what I found was that I hired Damon, and he turned out to be one of the best salespeople that we had, because he lit up a room. And what's funny is he had the personality to drive the business, and we could teach him some of the technical stuff about the products and that sort of thing, but you couldn't teach him how to light up a room. So it was awesome. Okay, so that's kind of the fast version of the career side of what we've experienced for the last 20 years or so. And right now you're thinking, how's this really entrepreneurial? Because that was it's a nice career, it's been a good time. But what's been entrepreneurial about it? And there's certainly been components that are. But what I want to tell you about is my technique was this, and I learned this from my dad, who was a super smart guy, and I wish I'd gotten some of his brains. But what he would talk about is, or the way he structured it was, he was an attorney, and he had a day job. He was a city attorney for Ogden. And so he always knew he could put groceries on the table. And then the other half of the day, he was in real estate development. And it really made for a nice mix. And I thought, wow, that's sort of a cool way to go. And so as I got into public accounting, our goal has always been to make the same from our other investments as we did from our current job. And that's really worked out pretty well for us. And so the interesting part of that is, we've never been totally at risk or leveraged. Like, our house has never been on the line for a company. I paid off the house and wanted those things to stay safe. And so as far as being all in, you'll hear stories about true entrepreneurs that are that are totally leveraged and guaranteed with credit cards or the house or that sort of stuff. And that hasn't been us. And I think there's different ways to do stuff, but this is what's worked well for us. And so what I want to talk about for the rest of the time are the E activities, I call them. And these are the things that we have done. I had great jobs and I had opportunities for this flexibility, but these all represent companies that we have owned or actively been invested in, and still probably own at least half of them in the course of that time. And so it's been really fun. So you see Acres Market up there? I mean, who would have thought we were going to own a grocery store? And in fact, what I had was the pharmacy side of it, and I had the most prima donna pharmacist, but that guy was a rainmaker. He built a pharmacy that was amazing. And so you know what you do with that? You just keep feeding him, and we did. And he kept building that, and it was awesome. And we sold that business we sold the operations about 5 years ago, which was a really fun liquidity event. And then the real estate we owned until last year. And that was a good situation as well. It worked really well. So what we'll do now is we'll pick a couple of these to talk about. And the two that I picked, the first one is called Black Pine Sports and Premium Ice Cream. So Black Pine Sports is one that I'm currently involved in. And, okay. Okay, and then Google. So Black Pine Sports, we have a super cool product called the Turbo Tent. And the Turbo Tent is a tent that sets up in about 90 seconds. And we have a video of an 80-year-old lady setting up the 6-person tent. And what we do is we bring all this over from China, which is super fun for me because I speak Chinese. And we bring it over and then we sell through major retailers here. Our primary retailer is Costco. So last year we were in 300 Costcos with these products. Now Costco, have you guys been in there and you've seen like Vitamix or that sort of stuff? If you see a camping show, it's our stuff. So this last weekend we were at 8 different Costcos. And we're mostly in the western United States, but we'll go in, we'll have a person there, and they'll sell these tents, and these turbo tents sell like crazy. So it's really fun thing to be involved in. There's still plenty of struggles because Costco exacts a lot from their vendors as well, and super expensive. And here's where I want to tell you a story. So 3 weeks ago, I'm up in Issaquah, Washington, which is just outside of Seattle, and I'm at the Costco headquarters. The head buyer for road shows for Camping for the Nation, her name is Leslie Watson. And after we finished meeting with Leslie and her assistant Lee for about an hour and a half, we went through our road shows and how that's working, which we're one of their top road shows. So our only question is how fast and how profitable we can roll it out. So when I finished meeting with her, though, she said, "Hey, John, I have a question to ask you, kind of off the record." And I said, "Yeah, what is it?" And she said, "How come so many of our new products are coming through Utah?" And I said, "Leslie, what do you mean?" And she said, "It seems to me like Utah is a hotbed for these companies that we end up doing business with." And it was pretty surprising or enlightening that her perception is that Utah generates such good businesses. And for you guys, I mean, I'm pretty excited about that because next time that Costco comes to this area, we know that their perception is there's good companies that come from here and that you have a real opportunity to get in there with Costco, which is a very big deal. And between us and there's another company called Goal Zero that does the solar stuff. They're also a big road show for Costco and are now in line there, which is another big deal to actually get in there so you don't have to keep moving your products and stuff. Okay, so that is Black Pine Sports. Right now I'm the CEO of this company. It's backed by a real good family out of Salt Lake that has the wherewithal to take this forward. And we have a lot of challenges and opportunities, but it's an exciting time. And we'll see what we can do, right? Okay, the other company I want to talk about is my personal favorite, and that is Creamies. How many of you have heard of Creamies? Okay, I think I quoted in here an 80% recognition, and we're pretty close to that, but Creamies. This is such a fun business. I mean, when I tell people I sell ice cream, I mean, nobody says, "Oh, that stinks. I can't believe you have to sell ice cream." But we sell Creamies. We've been doing it for a long time, and what I'll tell you about is how we got into the creamy business, because it's kind of a fun story. The creamy business has been around since 1955, and there was a guy from Logan who came up with the product. They originally called it the Fudgy. So the Fudgy bar. But there was a family that owned it, and this is what's, to me, kind of interesting, is they owned this and a car dealership. And the car dealership was not doing well. So they were using a lot of the funds from Creamies to buoy that up, to keep it going. But you couldn't tell that. The way we knew it was that a buddy of ours sold packaging to the Creamy company. And so this family, their business went into bankruptcy. Well, most people didn't want a thing to do with it, but we knew what the volumes were on the Creamy side based on the packaging that had been sold. So we went to receivership, and if you've ever been there, what happens is they just had an auction for the assets. So we went in there, and there were two people at the auction. There was us and the people that owned Fat Boy. Well, the people who own Fat Boy have been doing ice cream for a long time. And so we bid against them, and we kept bidding up, and we got to a place where they dropped out of the bidding. And that was a time when they said, be careful what you wish for, because we ended up with this company that we thought was worth a certain amount, but they didn't, and they know ice cream a lot better than we did at the time. So we got the assets of Creamies. Now with that, we got the premium malt shop in Logan, and then an antiquated manufacturing facility. So we jumped in, got involved. The malt shop, the best thing we did was we closed the malt shop. Because what we found out is that we were just giving shakes to is that Steven? Hey, Steven. That'll embarrass him pretty well. Yeah. Hey, man. This is my son, Steven. Hi, Steve. Dude, you look like your picture that I showed, so that's good. Okay, great. So with Creamies, then we close down the malt shop part of it, and we open a new manufacturing facility. And here's what's really cool. So we've owned it for 19 years. The products are Creamies. We've developed a yogurt, and then we have a junior Creamy. And the junior Creamy looks awesome because works awesome because we give it out in elementary schools. And so you can start those kids early on Creamies. You know, they stay with Creamies, right? All right, you ready? Yeah, so you just take it. There you go. Thanks. And here's a big box when you... Okay, so those are the products that we have. Our premium product is the mint. We have a few of these that are dipped in chocolate, so that's the premium product. Yeah, I mean, hopefully this doesn't ruin your lunch or anything. They are reduced fat, which is a big deal. 4.5 grams of fat, 120 calories. And then I did bring one box of yogurt Creamies as well, which has been a good seller. Yeah, so those are the yogurt, which yogurt comes in chocolate, raspberry, and peach.
Raspberry is my favorite. Yeah. I like it too.
Okay. Okay. Uh-huh. So hopefully you remember the Creamies, John Richards, too, right? Right.
Anybody want banana?
Okay, so any guess what the most popular flavor is? It is chocolate. Uh-huh. And it runs neck and neck with banana. Those are our two biggest sellers, and they'll actually alternate. And then mint dipped in chocolate is number 3. And then it goes from there. Orange is number 4. Okay, a mousse bar is our value line. And it was, it was Ken Macy who pushed that. His nickname was Moose. And so we still sell some of that through Macy's. But our flagship line is the Creamies. Okay? So let me tell you a few things about it again. I was talking about the manufacturing. We manufacture this in Smithfield, Utah. And what we have now is we have a really cool machine. They actually did a deal on the news, and at some point I'll show this to classes where they went up and filmed it. But we have a machine that goes from about here to Stephen. And the mix comes in at one end. We have 16 molds across, and then it rolls through, and they put sticks in it, freeze it, wrap it, and at the end of it you get a Creamy. And that rolls out 120 Creamies a minute, so 2 a second. So in a shift, a 10-hour shift will make 86,000 Creamies. So just crank away, and it's really fun to see because, yeah.
Is your market mostly Utah, or do you expand to Utah?
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a minute because that's where I can use some help generally. But that's our manufacturing. It works really well, our machine, and we have that going pretty much year-round. We'll build up inventory in the winter a little bit because we are a seasonal product. We really kick off from March to October are really good months. Okay? So, to your question, Creamies are a strong brand in the Rocky Mountain area. Utah, Idaho, Nevada, also Wyoming. It's really got a strong name. And I'll tell you about a couple of things that have happened recently. Because what's happened, Walmart has now picked us up. So this year we had 220 additional Walmarts pick us up in Arizona and also in Southern Cal. And here in Utah, we're in virtually every store, whether it's Winco, Target, all the associated food stores, Walmart, Sam's Club, Costco. So we've got pretty good penetration here. The tough part is how you penetrate other markets. Now, one thing that I didn't talk about is when I left industrial supply, we had an offer to go run another business that was like industrial supply. But what we decided to do is to take these projects and see what we can do. So I have some partners in Creamies, and I'm spending a lot more time with Creamies, which has been super fun. And with this addition with Walmart, the 200 Walmarts, so Southern Cal is, well, let me start with Arizona. Arizona, we're doing real well because there's a lot of people in Gilbert, Mesa, Phoenix that know about our product, so we've got a pretty good foothold there. We've also picked up Kroger in some of that market. But in Southern Cal, it's tough because that's a vast market, and trying to really get penetration and recognition. If you go into a Walmart there, we have a great location, but there's 300 SKUs in that category. So again, it's differentiation and how we come out of that. Certainly, we're a real good value as a product. Like the bar you're eating is 40 cents at retail versus any other brand that you name, which would be higher than that. The other thing that you may not know, the details are that there's no air in this. Most ice cream has air in it, which causes, they call that overrun. So like the ice cream that you buy in a quart will have half air. They call that 100% overrun. So this doesn't have that, so it stays frozen solid, and so it can travel real well. You still have the costs of moving it, but that's the travel. Okay, sales by customer. Walmart, 25%. Associated food stores, which again represents several different chains, including their Fresh Market, Reams, Dan's, etc. 22%. Kroger, which in this market is Smith's. We're also in New Mexico with Smith's as well. Costco, Albertsons, and then other. Our market strategy has really been to get this in people's hands. We've done some TV and mass broadcast stuff, but the facts are that when it works best is when you get it in people's hands. So we actually will donate Creamies to whether it's marathons or Family Fun Day in Salt Lake or that sort of thing. So that's really our intention, is to get in especially our demographics hand, which is still typically female, ages 25 to 55. So that's the demo there. I told you about Junior Creamies. We sell through several of the school districts and as part of the lunch program. And again, it works out well because it's easy to handle and for them to give out as a dessert or treat or that sort of thing. Okay, buy more Creamies. Thank you. So that is the creamy side of the business. Now, yes?
I'm just going to tell them about last night, Ryan.
Okay.
Okay, so our 8-year-old, he wanted a shake. And so we have just Creamies all in our freezer. And he said, Mom, can I make a chocolate shake with the Creamies? So we opened a box, a 6-count box of chocolate, and we took them off the stick and put them in the blender. And we put a little milk. And and I think because it does have such a little air in it, we were able to get 3 nice like glasses. It was like a chocolate coffee. And so and I said to John, they do about $2 a box, and we just got like virtually 3 shakes out of them. And you go to a Jamba Juice and you pay $5 for one smoothie, So I was kind of like, this is kind of a good. Anyway, it was just kind of a fun treat. I said, hey, we'll have to try banana tomorrow night. So it was kind of fun.
Okay, so along those lines is we have a website. We get a lot of comments, and I'll tell you about a couple of funny ones. Okay, the first one we got was a guy said, hey, I'm just wondering where I rank on the creamy fan scale. And then he went on to say that I have a box of 6 Creamies every night before I go to bed. And I wondered where that puts me on the creamy fan list. And so my marketing guy sends back and says, you keep working on it, you're going to make it to the top someday. But you're doing all right. We sent him a coupon for some creamies. But that one's a classic. So here's another one. I just got this in the mail. Dear Creamies, thank you so much for making the best ice cream bars in the world. Let me introduce myself a little. My name is Maddie, and I'm 13 years old. I like to play softball and, of course, eat creamies. I love creamies so much. They're so creamy, smooth, and made to perfection. I've always wanted to try your mint ones. I hope you know that your chocolate and raspberry are some of my favorite and make a huge difference in my world because they're so good. How'd you come up with such a great food idea? I hope that you realize that you have many creamy fans, including me. I can't believe they're so perfect. Creamy's biggest fan, Maddie, age 13. So, what's that? Yeah, I'm going to definitely send her a mint coupon. Yeah, so really fun. And then we'll have blog pages written about creamies, and especially for people who leave the state, because creamies aren't available in these other locations. So they'll call, we just got one from Michigan, didn't we? How do I get creamies to Ann Arbor? Well, and that's really probably the question to leave with you, is as we move on creamies, I mean, part of it, the three partners had day jobs, so we started to just let this thing clink along, which has been good. And then we have some salespeople that work it, certainly. But now we're going to see what we can do to take it at least a large regional player. Because if we can get to a certain level in sales, then it becomes more attractive to strategic buyers like Nestle's and Blue Bunny and some of those. So we'll see what we can do. This year was our first chance, like I told you, with the new Walmarts. But it's very difficult as you go into other markets, both the freight costs to transport it, and then also the cost, whether it's slotting fees. I don't know if you guys know, in the grocery industry, there's some stores will charge you large fees, like a Winco charges you maybe $5,000 a SKU to get into their stores. And it's a front-loaded cost. They say it's the expense of getting you inventoried in their warehouse or that sort of stuff. So big costs, and then also we're dancing with elephants. You know, these are big guys. Nestle is a massive company that could at any time decide. In fact, Costco periodically will have us come out in the winter, and what they tell us is to keep the national brands happy, because they'll just have us for a season, and then they'll take us out. So, and they're doing that right now, discontinuing us for this winter, and then we'll be back in the spring. So, okay. Yes, sir.
What are some things that you do, for example, in Southern California, where the market, like where the brand is unknown in the market? What are some things you do, like right now, to try and make that more known?
Okay, that's a great question, and that's really the question. So we have a broker called Premier Brokerage that services our product there in Southern Cal, and they have about 30 people that go to the stores and make sure they're all skewed up and stuff. And then what we're doing is we're donating to activities in the community. So fun runs, especially ones, again, that have the demographics, because we just can't afford to go on TV or something like that. Now, what we haven't been able to tap effectively, like we got a Facebook up and got lots of hits, but we haven't had sustainable viral marketing, social media. And that's an area that I really want to see what we can do to push, because if we get the word out, you know, whether it's through schools, churches, whatever, that we're now in town, because we had a lot of requests to be there, then maybe that could be effective. But that's the question. Yes?
You can put it in the Will It Blend video.
That's great.
He's asking me, put that on Pinterest.
Yeah, because we did have a Pinterest. A lady did a wedding, and she showed creamies as a fondue item. So she had chocolate running.
She was doing her own chocolate dip.
Yeah, so she's doing her own chocolate dip, and so she'd take the creamies and dip them. Yeah.
You got to get your product on the Price is Right.
Yeah, that's it.
There
Yeah.
you go. Give away your supply.
Oh, creamies. That's right. Okay, so what I want to make sure is conveyed today is a couple things. First off, there's a lot of people better qualified than me for this position, but there won't be anyone who has more energy about helping you get into business. I showed you these businesses here. 3 of them we've set up in the last year and a half, and we're right in it. I mean, we know how to set up companies and get them going. So that part's super fun. Secondly is that we have a really good network of people, especially in Salt Lake City. We've been there for a long time, and And we know a lot of folks that are in different industries. If I need to call, whether it's the president of Associated Food Stores or R.C. Willey's or wherever, we know those people, and that's a fun thing too, because they're looking. I mean, I was with 8 presidents of companies last weekend. We went up and we met with President Clark, who's at BYUI, and talked to him about his program. And then we were together for a couple of days, and I told them about this. And they're like, wow, can we do a Shark Tank? Can we come down and help out? You know, they're super excited about the opportunity. So there's a network of people out there that would be interested in helping you as you have projects or companies that you'd be interested in taking forward. So, and we'll be available. So with that, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and again, thanks very much.